What is up, guys? Hopefully you're all well. Just a quick recap on today's trade during the New York session. We're just going to go through the NQ trade that I took. So let's just get right to it. So just looking at this Friday's candle, we clearly had a nice C2 closure on Thursday, and we had a nice expansion on Friday with a good closure. So this is the thing. We are at the end of the monthly range, right? We're basically just 2 days away from for this candle to close, so we got to be extra precautious on what price might do at this area, because we can clearly consolidate. There's also a lot of earnings coming out this week with like Amazon, Google, Microsoft, etc., etc. We also have interest rates on Wednesday, so there's a lot of news, a lot of possible seek and destroy type of conditions just due to all this news coming out. So we got to be extra precautious. Same thing with the weekly time frame. Why I say consolidation? Just because look how 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks we've expanded, right, without any type of retracement, right, coming all the way to the all-time high here. So I'm not really like confident that we'll just continue going higher. I definitely see us consolidating here, or just this weekly candle can just either consolidate, maybe form a nice C2 to then start retracing lower, right, just for us to continue going higher, clearly, right? But me trying to look for buys here to continue higher is very, very unlikely. I wouldn't really be looking for that. Looking at our daily time frame, as mentioned, we had a great expansion on Friday. Now, depending on what this current candle does, we need to anticipate based off the intraday time frames, our 1 hour, 4 hour, to see how each session, what each session did, right, before coming into the New York, because then we can get a better idea on where price wants to go, right? So if we go on to our 4 hour, notice how we had a nice gap right here, right? The daily candle came into it, and we came back to ERL, which was the previous day's high. But notice what happened right after, right? So at this point, once we hit a relevant high, we want to anticipate what price wants to do. Are we failing to manipulate, or are we actually manipulating to go lower, right? So based off this, you can see how we had an Asia reversal here with an SMT. We expanded lower, closing back within the range. So this was your first indication that price doesn't look like it's willing to go higher, right? And clearly we already filled this inefficiency and came back to the previous day's high. So if we're going from an expansion to an expansion, where's our next straw? Right back to this relevant low right here, the daily opens low. So then we can see how 2 a.m.'s 4 hour candle, which was London, we basically consolidated and closed back within the range. So I was looking at this candle to form a nice C2. As you can see, we sweep the high of 2 a.m.'s 4 hour candle, and we also respected 50% of this candle right here, right? You see how it tapped into it, and then we expanded lower. So that's what I was looking for. I wanted to, so I'm anticipating this C2. When I was coming into the New York session, I was anticipating this C2 to continue going lower. As you can see on the 30-minute here, during our opening on the daily open right here, we expanded. So V-shape reversal, so expansion with an expansion, but not even that. You can see how with this displacement, we started forming gaps, which is like really good to see, especially if you want to see the continuation lower, because now we're looking from ERL back to IRL, IRL back to IRL, right? So this is like a inefficiency back to an inefficiency back within the range here. So you can see how, let me just fix that here for you. Okay, it's backwards, but you get the point. So you can see how we came back into a premium, right? I did not take this reversal. This would have been a nice C2. As you can see, we came into this inefficiency, right? So that's a key level. That's the first step, right? We had a nice 2-stage SMT right here with a 8 a.m.'s candle, which is this candle right here, with YM, if you can see right here. Right here, we had an SMT right here with this current candle, and then one with 8 o'clock right here. But not only that, if you look at the hourly, we had a nice PSP right here as well. This closed bullish while this closed bearish, right? So there was a lot of indications that price was willing to go lower, and then you can see how 8 o'clock expanded lower. If you look at our 3-minute here, if you didn't want to trade this, just wait for the expansion lower. This was 8 o'clock's candle, so clearly 8 o'clock started going expanding lower. If you wanted, you could have definitely had your stop loss right there at the high, and then maybe come to this consolidation right here, or all the way to the external low right here, which would have been a great trade right there, 7R right there. But we did not take that trade. We actually took the continuation. So seeing this here, we had this gap being formed prior to 9:30, right? And I'm just gonna erase this all here. So we had this prior to 9:30 here, right? We once 9:30 formed, we had a nice SMT right here with YM, as you can see here. YM expanded much higher back to its the daily ranges high right here, while NQ created the failure swings. So seeing this gave me the indication that price was willing to go lower, and of course we are trading the weakest asset, which is ideal for us. So this was my I took a break even today, and I'm going to explain why. So see how we had this nice change in the state right here. We had this nice change in the state of delivery right here. The only problem was I was not confident, and why I wasn't confident was because look what NQ was doing at that time. See how we closed bearish, but we closed bullish on ES. So I wasn't confident because clearly ES and NQ correlate very, like they basically move in sync, right? 99% of the time. And seeing this did not really, like, it just made me lose confidence in this trade, just because I thought NQ was going to also continue going higher, right? Maybe just do another manipulation before going lower, right? So this would have been the trade if I did take it, right? Again, even if I did take this trade, the RR would have not been good, and realistically I would have had to put it like right here at the rejection block, at least there, or right here, right at the rejection here. But notice if I did that, I would have been stopped out right there, right? So it would have been a little tricky there. What I actually did was I actually scaled into the 5-minute, and in all honesty, I just waited for this candle to close, and I waited for the retracement on this down up close candle right here on the 5-minute, right? And I entered somewhere around here and had my stop loss right here, right? At least I wasn't entering somewhere here and I had a bigger stop loss, right? And then basically it was like almost a 1 to 2 right there, right? So realistically, once I took this trade, I actually scaled into the 1-minute here, right? Just because it was basically like a scalp. We weren't too far from the draw in liquidity, so I needed to like really scale in to make sure that I wasn't, like, my risk to reward wasn't as bad. As you can see here, it was a good 2R, right? So it wasn't bad. But the thing is, why I scaled in was just because I did not want to take a loss here, because at the time ES was still expanding here, right? Let's just look at both of them at the same time, and you could see. So let's look at this candle. See how in ES we just continued going higher and higher. Notice how this 1-minute candle we expanded lower, and then this one went higher. So it was a little tricky. I noted this inversion fair value gap when I was live, that I wanted to see price close below it. We had this, which was good. I then actually moved my stop loss right to this current high right here, right? Once we retraced, and then we displaced, neglecting this up close candle, I actually moved my stop loss to break even right here. Then you can see how we had another retracement back to my entry, clearly to the tick, as you can see. Look at that, to the tick, guys. It stopped me out, and then you can see how it came into my draw right here, right? I'm not mad, because overall the idea was right, and that's all that matters, right? It was just unfortunate that we didn't have that nice expansion once we had this closure here, because realistically it should have just gone, right? I didn't really see why it made sense, but at the end of the day, I'm not supposed to know that, right? The market can do whatever it wants. At the end of the day, I just have to manage my risk, manage my trade, and that is all I have to do, right? At the end of the day, that's my job, and then the market can do whatever it wants to do, right? But overall, you can see how that trade went. It went pretty well. there was another opportunity if you waited till 12 o'clock. Clearly, I did not trade this at all. But you can see how, if you look at YM here, we had a nice SMT right here. Sorry, not an SMT, but we had a nice SMT right here at these lows here, right? Notice that we had a nice, good C2 closure, right? Within the 4-hour time frame, noting that we can anticipate that the new 4-hour candle at 2 p.m. would continue going higher. Actually, sorry, this was actually before the 4-hour close. So this is during the, where is it? Yeah, this was actually prior to the 2 a.m. open, because we had this nice SMT right here, right? Notice how we had a nice C2 closure. So 12 o'clock came around, right? You can see how we had that still C2 closure closing back within the range. And then 11:30 came, right? We didn't really get that good change in the state of delivery, but you notice how everything started to expand higher here, right? So if you wanted to wait till 12 o'clock, this would have been it right here. If you're going to your 3-minute, this was 12 o'clock right here. You could see how we went lower and started expanding higher here. So this would have been an ideal trade right here to take. Noting that we had that C2 closure on the 30-minute. If you look right here, that nice C2 closure. Clearly this 11:30 was a consolidation, because if we look at 11:30, see, this was 11:30 right here at the open, and then we started going higher. In a way, you still could have taken this trade. I think I still would have waited for more confirmation, like the C2 closure right here. Even if you wanted to wait till 11:30 and wait for that nice change in the state of delivery, 12:30 would have still been good. If you look at 12:30 here, this would have been 12:30 right here, and then that expansion higher, this would have been your trade. Or if you wanted to go for the retest, you could have definitely done that, and then trade back into the gap right here that was left on the 30-minute, right? So it's all phases of prices, right? We had an expansion, consolidation, and a retracement back into this inefficiency that wasn't filled, right? And then you can see how it just tapped in beautifully, and then we consolidated. Now we're at the current new candle right now. But yeah, that is it, guys. Overall, hopefully you guys found this useful. I'm gonna do my best to keep doing these every single day, guys. I'll be live streaming every single day as well, so I just want to be consistent with you guys. But overall, hopefully you guys found this useful, and I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Take care.